I really enjoy exploring the qualities of sound that can be employed on the guitar, so it doesn't sound like a guitar. Because when you think of the amount of guitar sounds that have been presented before you, like Segovia and Neatest Platters and McLaughlin, Hendrix, Crampton, Beck. Well, there's just so many, but everyone has a different tone. And you could almost think of that in the way of a sort of string section. Cellos and violas. And now with the synthesizers as well, you can get a brass quality as well.
The object is black and twisted, obviously the worse for wear since its original appearance in 2001. To look at it on the pictures decorating the cover of the new Led Zeppelin album, it would seem that the object is now back in the year 1950 or thereabouts. Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin has contemplated the object, perceiving in it the messages that others might discover in the pyramids of Egypt, the crucifix of Christianity, or the NBCN.
The meaning behind it has been present throughout time, you know? Its purpose has been there from when time began. We just chose one time to illuminate its presence in society.
And that was the time when Robert Plant and the other members of Led Zeppelin were being born. That is not significant, says Plant.
It could have been any time at all, but we just chose that time as being a time to show it. It could have been the Middle Ages, it could have been next year, if you like. It'll always be with us.
Always be with Plant, maybe. The object may not be welcome anywhere else. It appeared recently in the home of Led Zeppelin's drummer, John Bonham.
While I was away, my wife received one of these on the table, and they had a tape machine running, and the children were singing, right? And this is the gospel truth. When they played the tape back, there was another sound on the tape. That's something to think about. So she put it outside the house. She won't have it in the house.
But the object apparently has a mind of its own. Why has it suddenly sat down in the middle of a rock and roll band? Why has it taken on the shape that it has, like a piece of licorice twist stuck on top of a Bible? Well, explains Plant,
To relate the intention that the object puts across,
And what is that intention?
Well, you've got to work it out for yourself.
perhaps the object is really a symbol of the popular culture. Everything twisting down into rock. Whatever. Be forewarned. If Led Zeppelin's music sounds a bit strange these days, it may be because of that object on the album cover. If so, follow the lead of John Bonham's wife and put the album cover out of the house. This is Lou Irwin, Earth News Radio for Clairol Herbal Essence.
everybody, welcome to part 7 of my Led Zeppelin album deep dives. Today I'm talking about their 7th studio album, Presence. This was released on March 31st, 1976, and the band went into the studio because Robert Plant had been in a car accident and had injured himself. They had to cancel some tour dates, so since they had a lot of time on their hands, and even though it had been not even a year since the Physical Graffiti album came out, they went into the studio for the first time. They didn't go to Stargroves, they didn't go to Headley Grange. They went to West Germany, to Musicland Studios, and laid down tracks for their 7th studio album, which also happens to be my least favorite Led Zeppelin studio record. Now, not because I don't like the album, it's not that I don't like the songs. They just happen to be, I enjoy them less than I do the other Led Zeppelin albums and their discography. I don't know why. I think some of it, to be sure, has to do with, I'm not a big fan of this cover art. It just doesn't really do much for me. I don't think it's one of Hypnosis's best covers, but it's also the music. I mean, when it comes down to it, you know, Achilles' Last Stand, does that need to go on as long as it does? I'll get to that when I get to the actual songs themselves. Presence is really dominated by compositions by Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. There's not a lot of John Paul Jones here, and there's only one group composition on the whole record. So it was definitely the brainchild of Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. In fact, at one point it was going to be called Thanksgiving. They were so glad to have wrapped up the album and they were so happy with it. But this is also kind of the point in the Led Zeppelin story where things start to go south for them. You had Robert Plant's car crash. Very tragically, Robert Plant's young son, Carrick, would pass away from a strange stomach infection. Of course, John Bonham would be gone. So there's just a lot of people would say they were reaping some bad karma, which had to do with Jimmy Page dabbling in the occult, whatever you believe. I mean, sometimes just bad things happen through no fault of any of the participants. But this is sort of like Led Zeppelin from here on out. I just get the sense that it stopped kind of being fun for them. You know, late 60s, early 70s, I think they were having a ball. They were partying, they were living it up, they were putting out fantastic music. And then from Presence forward, it just felt like things kind of were going wrong. Now, a lot of 1976 was actually taken up because they put out their feature film, Song Remains the Same, which is 90% concert film, and then there's like 10% these fantasy montages with each of the band members. But Presence, I think, kind of got overshadowed. When I was trying to research just any interviews or anything to do with this album, there really wasn't a whole lot because all they talked about in 1976 and 1977 was the song Remains the Same. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to dig up really them talking about it. I don't know that they gave any press interviews to promote this album. And I think it also, if I'm not mistaken, was the worst selling Led Zeppelin album. But anyway, that's as much as I know of the backstory. Let's get into the actual songs on the album. So it opens up with Achilles' Last Stand. And yeah, Hart ripped off the rhythm for Barracuda. But Achilles' Last Stand, it's definitely one of Led Zeppelin's epic tracks. I just feel it goes on too long. If they trimmed off 2 or 3 minutes off this song, I think I would enjoy it a lot more. But I just feel myself kind of wanting to skip ahead 5 minutes into the song. It's like, yeah, they just keep repeating it over and over. I just feel it goes on too long. And you guys may feel differently. And if you do, I'm sure you'll tell me in the comment section. But this is just my own personal opinion. Achilles' Last Stand. Yeah, I love the chugging, driving rhythm. They play it great. Just a little too lengthy for my taste. The next track is For Your Life, which seems to be about some drug transactions going on. I love Robert Plant's vocal inflection on the cocaine. I think this is probably a character study for Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin. I know they didn't have a lot of experience with drugs out on the road. When they were on their tours, after the show, they'd be so exhausted, they would just go back to their rooms. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant would usually play pinochle back in their hotel room. John Bonham was studying the Bible. Apparently, he was trying to become a deacon at the local parish. And John Paul Jones would just kind of mess around in his hotel room with his instruments, the guitar, just kind of playing music there on his own in his hotel room. And I think Robert Plant has told the story, these were tales that other bands were bringing to Led Zeppelin, talking about their exploits on the road. And so Robert Plant decided to write a song with a drug theme. I like the rhythm and the pace of this song. They did a live version of it for the Celebration Day, kind of that reunion concert that they did. I love the version, and that made me really go back and appreciate this song a lot. It's just kind of, I want to call it lazy, but it's just very taken at a strictly mid-tempo. I love Jimmy Page's cool guitar solo. He tends to get a different guitar sound with each album, and I love his guitar tone on here. The whole song, I just really like this one a lot. The last track on side one, because Achilles' Last Stand takes up so much time, they could only fit 3 songs on side one, is Royal Orleans. I like this one a lot. I kind of like the jangly guitar on this song. It's got kind of almost like a sister song to the grunge. That's what the guitar playing on this song really reminds me of. Apparently, it's talking about when Led Zeppelin were in New Orleans and the shenanigans that they got up to. But I like this one a lot. I know it's probably some people's least favorite on here, but I happen to really like this one. Side 2 opens up with the epic Nobody's Fault But Mine. Great vocal acrobatics from Robert Plant. I love the start and stop rhythm. This one I don't get tired of. It's got a very cool, and I think the lyrical themes of this definitely foreshadowed kind of the bad stuff that was going to happen to Led Zeppelin.
for the mind. Nobody's for mine. Nobody's for mine.
And I think with the lyrics, you kind of get this sense that Robert Plant was feeling like Led Zeppelin was reaping some bad karma. Yeah, I love this one. It's very bass heavy. I love the great guitar work from Jimmy Page. Fantastic drumming from John Bonham. This whole song, one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs ever. Candy Store Rock is definitely a nod. It's got a very rockabilly kind of a flavor to it. You got that echoey Robert Plant vocal, which I think is very cool. It's very retro, almost like a Gene Vincent style song, which I think works well. Led Zeppelin had never tried anything very retro to this point, unless I'm forgetting a song. But I love the fact that they're kind of playing homage to some of their 50s rockabilly heroes. My Time for Nowhere, it's kind of got a little bit of a bouncy flavor to it. It's all right. I mean, it's pleasant enough. Not one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs ever. You can almost dance. It's almost like a danceable song, I guess you could say, but it's all right.
Such a hard time to brighten the day. I turned around to look for the snowman. To my surprise, it melted away. Yeah. La 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 la, yeah. La 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 la, baby. La 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 la, yeah.
And then the last song is T for One. I love the fact how they do that bait and switch. Like it starts out like, oh, this is going to be kind of a heavier song. It's got the opening guitar riff. And then all of a sudden it's like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to do a very slow, brooding blues song, which I like a lot. It has to be up there with Since I've Been Loving You for kind of like the most subdued blues song that they ever did. T for One is great. I really love the song. I absolutely do. I think it's a fine way to close out this album. Very mournful, sad blues. As you would gather from the title. Just imagine somebody just sipping their tea all by their lonesome. But anyway, that is my take on Presence. Let me know what you think. Am I being too harsh on the album? Am I being too unfair to Achilles' Last Stand? Let me know what you think. But just be nice. Hope you're doing great and take care.